Today is another beautiful day of another Yoruba Ronu series. I want to greet the wonderful media crew of TYF who were able to do everything humanly possible to ensure that this program is being streamed live on YouTube, is being streamed live on Facebook and other media platforms that TYF is present. We want to ensure that anywhere anybody does not have any excuse not to listen to the voice of liberation. We are TYF. What we are preaching is Awoism. We do not hate any ethnicity. We do not detest any ethnic nation. We are not secessionists. We are just here to continue the good works of Awolowo. And the fundamentals of Awoism is the self-preservation of the Yoruba people in no matter the geopolitical reality we find ourselves across West Africa and across the world. My name is Oladimeji Bolarinwa. I'm the president and the leader of Think Yoruba First organization. We are here to discuss a very important topic, which is the right of indigenous rights, rights of indigenous people, and ethnic diversity in a multi-ethnic country, using Europe as a case study. For the past 1 year, TYF started a campaign. And that campaign was that we understand the reason why indigenous people must be protected. For the past 4 years, in different capacities, in different parts of the world, we've spoken against policies that might destroy the rights of the Yoruba people as indigenous people to survive everywhere we find ourselves. We fought against Ruga. We fought against the Water Resource Bill. We fought against cattle colony. We are also fighting against the Indigenous Bill. But it's been supported and sponsored by Southeast senators. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because of the following reasons. We understand that politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed. You don't need to carry guns and ammunition before you can annihilate and destroy and displace the people from their ancestral land. We understand from history that before guns, bullets are taken into a space in order to forcefully take over the lands and resources of indigenous ethnic nations, what comes first are documents, treaties. And I'm going to give 2 examples. On one occasion, the Yoruba people has been a victim of such policies and such laws. And on the second occasion, this is something that happened in the Middle East between 1917 to 1919, especially after the First World War. I'm going to start from the second example, which was the Balfour Declaration. What was the Balfour Declaration? The Balfour Declaration was a declaration where the British, the imperial might, the imperial British government gave the right of what we call Palestine and handed it over, of that area called Palestine, and gave it to the Jews, to the Jewish settlers coming back from Europe. And that was what happened, because there was a question on the Jewish question. And they said the Jewish people need a homeland, which was a project started by the father of modern Jewish nationalism in the person of Theodor Herzl. Because Theodor Herzl said, before there can be peace in Europe and to stop the continuous persecution of the Jews need an homeland. At first, they proposed a site in Uganda. Another time, they proposed a site in some part of Ottoman Empire. Another time, they proposed a site in Argentina. But they all believe that Jerusalem has always been the homeland of the Jews thousands of years before they were displaced. And what happened? Through treaties, lobbying, by the might and power of the financial hegemony of the Rothschild, what happened? The state of Israel happened. It was that declaration that this is the letter the British government gave us. And unfortunately for the Jews, the Ottoman Empire was destroyed. The Ottoman Empire lost the First World War when they were fighting on the side of Germany, of Imperial Germany. It was that excuse, that singular paper, that gave the Jews what we have as the legal documents to be able to go and claim that land. And that was what the Balfour Declaration started. So everything you see in Palestine today, between Palestinians and Israel, was because of a singular treaty, a singular promise that the imperial might of Britain said, you the Jews, we promise you this land. Even though the British promised 3 different groups the same piece of land. The British promised to give that place to France. They also promised to give that place to Arabs, and they promised to give that place to Jews. So it was not just a matter of they promised the same thing to 3 different people, 3 different groups, and it all depends on how you can be able to use might and force to go and claim what was promised, the same piece of estate promised to 3 different people. So I was not surprised when France, one of the countries amongst the G7, is the first country among the G7 to openly support the state of Palestine, because France also believe that place belongs to them, especially post 1918. Another good example of where treaties can also, people can make laws. Something can be written on a piece of paper. In fact, they don't need to call you. You are even lucky that we are talking about the Indigenous bill. You can have senators that can speak for you. They don't need to call you, because in geopolitics, might is right. You have to understand that. That is why you must always be on the table. You must never be victim. You must always be strong as Yoruba people in order to be able to speak for your people. There is no morality in this game of survival anywhere in the world. There is no morality in the game of geopolitics anywhere in the world. The Yoruba people must understand that. And that's one of the things we've been preaching in selling TYF, to understand how the world works and how the world operates. So what happened? In 1884, a conference happened. 1884, 1885. There was a conference that happened in Germany. It was called the Berlin West African Conference. What happened in the Berlin West African Conference? Berlin West African Conference were where the imperial powers, from France to Britain to Italy to Spain to Portugal, they sat down and asked themselves this question. Africa is so rich in human resources. Africa is so rich in mineral resources. We don't need to go and kill ourselves over Africa, because we need the resources of Africa to be able. Belgium was also sitting down. They saw the wealth that Belgium, Leopold, was making out of Africa. And they sat down and said, let everybody take their piece. Let everybody take their bite. And they divided Africa. Everybody in Africa was made in Europe. All the countries in Africa was made in Europe. There is no organic country in Africa. Everything was made in Berlin in 1984. That was the day the sovereignty of the right of Africans to be Africans was taken away from us. That was the day it was impossible for Africans to be able to say think Yoruba first anymore, because we lost the right to be that. When we say think Yoruba first, it is a kind of a call to tell the imperial masters, our people might be in Brazil, and my people might be in Benin Republic, our people might be in Togo, our people might be in Cote d'Ivoire, our people might be in Benin Republic, some Yorubas might be in Nigeria, broken up by imperial forces, but we are still holding on to our identity, we are still resistance, we are still saying no. Because no matter where we are, whether you're a French-speaking Yoruba, a German-speaking Yoruba, an English-speaking Yoruba, because you've been scattered across West Africa based on that 1884-1885 Berlin West African Conference, we are still defiant. We are still Yorubas. And will continue to be Yorubas. That does not make us secessionists. We are just doing what everybody has done in the world. Where the Germans of Switzerland are still German first. Where the Germans of Austria are still German first. Where the Germans of Germany are still Germans first. Where the Germans of Liechtenstein are still German first. Where the Germans of Italy are still German first. Where the German of Lorraine and Saxe in France are still German first. Where the Irish of Northern Ireland are still Irish first. Where the Irish of Ireland are still Irish first. So, we owe nobody any apology. We owe nobody any explanation for doing what everybody has done in the world. The Han-Chinese of Taiwan, the Han-Chinese of Singapore, the Han-Chinese of Macau, the Han-Chinese of mainland China still believe that they are Chinese and Chinese first. Because we did not control the circumstances of history 100, 200, 300 years ago. We could not do that. So because we could not do that, we have to pick up the broken pieces of our lives, the broken pieces of our civilization, the broken pieces of our heritage, the broken pieces of who we are, and forge a common future geopolitically across borders for the entire Yoruba race, where we'll be able to celebrate ourselves, not through the prisms of our colonialists, but through the lens of the Yoruba civilization of the Yoruba people. Going forward, like I said, in 1984 Berlin West African Conference, lands was broken up by the colonial masters, by the colonialists. We were broken up. We were divided. And everything became, everybody was just taking up pieces of land, pieces of heritage. Everybody was taking up the different pieces. And that was the end. And that was the end. And that was how we have different countries. Mali was created. Cameroon was created. Nigeria was created. And this is 2025. Almost 200 years later. Has anything changed? Nothing has changed. Because those who made that, it is that treaty where you are going to have something called the rule-based order. It is that treaty where countries are currently claiming sovereignty. It is that treaty where you are going to see European powers saying, oh, let us leave the territorial integrity of Zambia. It was that treaty. So you need to understand that what Kalu, or the governor of Imo State, is currently trying to enforce down our throats. What Kalu, the current governor of the current deputy speaker of the Nigerian House of Rep, is trying to do, might be something that will lock down our generation for the next 300 years. The singular action of the Ottoman forces to capture Constantinople changed the balance of power, reconfigured the Roman Empire for the past 800 years, and nothing has changed to this current moment. So you can think we are in a very, very critical period in history, because we understand what Nigeria is. The problem is that a lot of us do not understand what Nigeria is. So we make political decisions from a self-destructive angle. We go into nationalism from a position of self-immolation. We go into nationalism from a position of self-aggrandizement. I listened to my sister speaking a while ago, some minutes ago, about why our political elites are not approachable. And she was asking a question: what kind of politics do we practice? And I think I'm going to start saying something very, very sensitive. And the sensitivity of the matter is not to be insultive, but for us to actually do a critical reappraisal of what we do and how we do things. Number one, The Yoruba people, we do not understand democracy and how democracy works in a multi-ethnic country. It is not our fault. It is not because the Igbos are far more intelligent than us. It is because the Igbos have a village level kind of system where there is always a struggle for power. There's always a contest. There's always a kind of competition. So their lifestyle suits into this current rat race that we currently have in Nigeria. And when you look at the North, politics is an essential part of Islamic civilization. The core North has embraced full-blown Islamic civilization. So everything you have there is highly political. It's all about hegemony. It's all about suppression of, it's all about domination of ethnic minorities. It's all about expansionism. It's all about being on top. That is politics. But let us look at the Yoruba society. The Yoruba society largely is still a form of monarchical system. The mindset of an average Yoruba man will still believe that the Ooni of Ife is superior to Governor Adeleke. It is a bitter truth. The mindset unconsciously, subconsciously of a Yoruba man is that he thinks the Alaafin of Oyo is superior to Governor Seyi Makinde. But it is not true. It is when we start having conversations that a lot of Yoruba people and things happens. Start getting this reality that the new kingmakers, the new emperors of Yoruba civilization are our political elite. The new emperors, the new kingmakers within the Yoruba civilization are our political leaders. So our political leaders are the custodian of Yoruba civilization. The quality of our political leaders will determine whether the Yoruba civilization will survive another 100 and 200 years. That is why the average Yoruba youth approaches politics from a kind of self-vindictive, moralist, hypocritical point of view. That is how a Yoruba man sees politics. He sees politics as a way to please his girlfriend, who is probably Igbo or Nupe. He sees politics as a way to please his pastor, who is probably from the South or from Ijo. He sees politics as a way in order to come out and come to social media and say, even though it's a Yoruba man that is contesting for presidency, I voted against him and I voted Atiku. I'm a detribalized Nigeria. That's the way he sees politics. He does not see politics as a means to an end for the survival of the Yoruba civilization. Because in his mind, if he takes his voter's card and goes to go and vote for a charlatan like Peter Obi, and he does that, he does not know that Peter Obi has the power, has the federal might to make policies that would deindustrialize Ogun State, to make policies that would destroy the economic advantage of the Yoruba people, to make policies that would destroy every means of any advantage, infrastructural wise, that the Yoruba people might have within Nigeria that has given us an edge. He doesn't know. He's that naive. He's even going to argue with you. Even if you give him so much historical example, he will be doing whataboutism on social media. That is the reality that we find ourselves. And when the shit hits the fan, and let's say there's a kind of insecurity, there's a problem across Yoruba land, the same people will be the first people to say, oh, I want Bawa ti Eshen Koko. He does not understand that the politicians, the chairman of local government, the councillors have so much power, have so much responsibility, have so much financial war chest, have so much leverage in order to be able to protect every single Yoruba citizen of Nigeria. He doesn't understand that. So because we practice politics, we approach politics from this position of not being realistic, we are making big mistakes. We make big mistakes. We make suicidal political decisions. We make suicidal political, we take the suicidal political stance on issues. So that's the reality. That's the mistake we make. So I am telling you the truth. An average Yoruba man might have a PhD. He might call himself a prince. I am prince so. And he will be the one that will be giving out jobs, political positions, meant for the indigenous people. Meant for the indigenous people. Giving out to his girlfriends. Because he does not understand how politics, democracy works in a multi-ethnic country. He doesn't understand that it is who controls the political power that owns the land. You can say Oyo State is Oyo State. Oyo State, Oyo Empire. Omo Odua, Ìpínlẹ̀ Odua, Osun State, Orisun, the Kredu. But if your governor is one Uche from Anambra, your senators is one Chukwudi from Ebonyi, that land does not belong to you. Because they have the political power. They have the numbers. They have the leverage. They control the levels of power to install an Igwe as your king, to change your laws, to destroy your customary laws, and to change your reality. You will not even be able to determine your future because the peace of even your others can be destroyed. It happened in the Western region. What happened in the Western region? When the Shekiris were still with us, to take the Shekiris out of the Western region, what did they do? They organized a sham referendum, which was heavily rigged. These are the historical backings to back what I'm saying. I'm not trying to rubbish the quest of some people who are not Yorubas to say they don't want to be part of the Western region. I'm saying the truth. Our law was thrown into prison, and our law was blackmailed in order to ensure that the Yoruba people, the Shekiri people, were manipulated and taken out of the Western region. They did. That's why when people say, let's go and hold referendum. What happened in 1963, 62, 63 in Nigeria? And what happened in 1961? The exit of the Southern Cameroons out of Nigeria has shown me that referendum can also be manipulated. Referendum can be rigged. And heaven will not fall. And what happened when Western Togoland was annexed by Ghana and incorporated into modern Ghana in that area of Eastern Ghana now, has shown me that referendum, because Kwame Nkrumah, the supposed Pan-Africanist, this is not trying to spoil his name, rigged the referendum that forced majority of the Ewe people, a large chunk of the Ewe people, forced them into modern day Ghana. I have spoken to a lot of Pan-Africanists, most of them West Africans, and they tell me yes, sometimes it's not bad to be rigging elections because Kwame Nkrumah rigged the election in order to divide the Ewe people into two because it's not good to be tribalist. You start asking yourself questions. That's why if you see most chronic Pan-Africanists, they have no problem with people like Paul Kagame. They have no problem with people like the military juntas. You have in Côte d'Ivoire, you have in Mali, you have in Burkina Faso, you have in Niger. They will even be doing PR for them. Because to them, they do not, all this democracy, human rights, and this victimhood, anti-colonial rhetorics they make are just a means to an end to their own idealistic, suicidal, manipulative ideologies and agenda. So, I have told you that the Yoruba people do not understand politics. We do not have the proper political education. We might be brilliant. We might be intelligent as a people. We were just lucky to have Awolowo when he came. Which was just a miracle. A lot of us do not have the fundamentals political education. I'm going to give you this truth, this example. Go and look at places in Nigeria where the Yoruba people are a large majority and they are outside the southwest. How have we been able to stand our ground? I'm going to give you two examples. In Kwara State and in Kogi State. I'm going to start with the examples of Kogi State. The Yoruba people, almost 1/3 of the landmass of Kogi State is Yoruba land. We are one of the major ethnic groups, not a minority in Kogi State. Yebira people just have maybe 4 or 5 local governments. The Yoruba people have almost 7 local governments. But do you know that when it comes to power, when it comes to politics, the Yoruba people are almost irrelevant in the scheme of things in Kogi State? Why? Even though we have a senatorial zone to ourselves in Kogi West, you see the Ebiras, whether the Ebirakotos, you see the Ebiras, okay, how they vote and block vote for their own political advantage. You see how the Ebiras come together, whether they are Christians, they are Muslims, to do Ebira first. And that's how they were able to organize. They waited for more than 30 years. Ever since the 1980s, 70s and 80s, when they were last the governor of Kogi State, of former old Kwara State, the Ebira people organized themselves. Yaya Bello can be anything to you from the west to the east to the north. But to an Ebira man, they do not see the fault in Yaya Bello. You can call him any kind of a thing. He's corrupt. He stole money, killed people. But to them, he is a means to an end. And you will never hardly see any Ebira man or woman, whether poor or rich, whether educated or not, coming to the public to rubbish Yaya Bello. Because they believe Yaya Bello was a tool that helped them to hijack the government house in Kogi State. But on the other hand, for the Yoruba people, what do we have? Give them just a slot to contest for governorship and say, oh, this slot, so it is the turn of the Kogi people, of the Yoruba people of Kogi State to come to contest for election. You are going to see just different people in fact, in a particular compound, you are going to see 5 people coming out to contest for that governorship. And they will start doing all sorts of crazy things, all sorts of diabolical things to self-destruct. It is because they do not understand politics. It is because they are still living in the era of monarchism. It is not because Yoruba people are not united. It is, I'm sorry to say this thing publicly. We are still stuck. Our social, political and social cultural reality has not evolved beyond monarchism. So we are still stuck in that era of anybody, you know, those hypocritical egalitarianism. If you notice a Yoruba man is very vicious when it comes to competing with his fellow Yoruba man and even taking over what a fellow Yoruba man is doing. And I'm going to say this without missing words. A Yoruba man believes that if a Yoruba man is doing something, doing something, whether in politics, whether in business, tó yẹ pé Igbo ló ń ṣe, or Hausa ló ń ṣe, or Fulani ló ń ṣe, Yoruba ò ní lọ bẹ̀ o. The fellow Yoruba man won't lọ bẹ̀. But when the fellow Yoruba man don't proceed, no loss, okay, a Yoruba man will go there. And then kini, oníkálukú ṣe tiẹ̀ ní, kò sí anybody tó ní kíní. It's a sample of like what we started. When we started doing Yoruba Ronu, we started preaching Yoruba conservatism. We started doing political, neo-Yoruba renaissance. We saw different funny people, funny elements coming around, looking at what we are doing, without even saying, thank you, well done, TYF, to what you're doing. And what are they doing? They are going everywhere, and nobody can tell us, nobody can police what Taoism, what conservatism. Do you know why? Our Yoruba people are shameless and highly indisciplined to that level. It is not because, and you start asking questions. But mental issue. You believe where we reach thousands and hundreds of thousands of people all over. We go all over the world, across borders, across continents to preach this message. And what you are doing is to be destroying Are. And you say, Are, we are attacking Are, we are not attacking TYF. What's the difference between Are and TYF? You want to destroy the messenger. And because you know if you come for TYF, people will see you as evil. You think the Yoruba, because you believe power Yoruba or New York, like you understand intention. And the reason why people are doing this, it is because the Yoruba civilization is still has not properly evolved beyond monarchism. It has not become full-blown republicanism. Into my own position is in my heart. Because we've not evolved. We've not evolved. We are all hypocrites. We've not evolved as a people. That's why a lot of diabolical people in our midst are using all means to destroy those that could have come to save us. All of us talk about Taoism. There are so many Awolowo that have emerged in our midst. What's the power need? What to destroy one need? So I was giving you an example of Kogi. See, Philemonti, a counter-offensive against the Ebiras, against the Igalas, who are where minorities are politically marginalizing the majorities. It is because we have not evolved into full political understanding into how politics should be practiced in a multi-ethnic society. The same thing in Kwara State. In Kwara State, we will come out and say, oh, the Yoruba people are 90% of Kwara State. The Yoruba people are 70% of Kwara State. Yet, people that are organized are decimating us. People that we see that I want to pay what colonize one, but Bariba used to be under the Yoruba Empire or your empire. Torí orí ìtàwọn pé wọ́n understand the politics to yín lọ. That's why you've seen what is happening in Lagos State. The Igbos are now up to 20% of Lagos State. But they understand they've brought in, they've socially engineered that space and be able to hold the Yoruba indigenous people hostage. And we have to take up this firebrand political education to liberate our people. To them the consequences. A lot of people do not even know. Better about the control political power. They don't know. They don't know. What Mambaya do? Many of the things we say, our political elites don't know it. And let me tell you the truth, brothers and sisters. Your politicians are not coming from heaven. Your politicians are not coming from Jupiter. Láàrin àwọn èèyàn tó wà ní audience náà, lẹ́tí máa ní new House of Rep members, lẹ́tí máa ní senators tó máa emerge lọ́jọ́ iwájú. Láàrin àwọn tó ń ba TYF jẹ́ tó ń insult TYF, tó ń ba orúkọ wa jẹ́ káàkiri, náà lẹ́tí máa ráwọn tí ó emerge lọ́jọ́ iwájú. I don't expect them to speak for you. Tí wọ́n ṣe láti destroy Awolowo and Taoism between 1965 to 2015 was very simple. The technique was very simple. The Awolowo block, anybody with Yoruba consciousness was not allowed to be politically relevant within Nigeria. And when you are politically relevant within Nigeria, you are going to have access to wealth and power. That was what they did. So they were able to took out the political education, they took out the Awoist block and made them politically irrelevant within Nigeria. It was a very straightforward tactical movement, and it was successful. It was successful. So it was shame. So you look at the Bobo and Nadeko, and they went to Nadeko one oja, Abiola this, Abiola that. AD won the election 1999 to 2003. We were happy that Awoyizim is back. But when we're tactical, we are going to ensure that the federal power is in the hands of somebody that looks like Yoruba on the outside, but is anti-Yoruba, full-blown. And they finished the job. And it did serious damage to us. And that's why we are here today. So, the reality, and we could not be able to mount that proper counter-offensive. And that's why anybody that preaches Awoism, that preaches a form of Yoruba consciousness, if not that we've been able to stand our ground, I commend many people that have been able to join us on this journey. I commend you that have been able to join us on this journey. But one thing I want to say, we must not become what we condemn. There's a fine line between nationalism and fascism. There's a thin line between a just struggle to become full-blown mob. That is why it is very, very good for intellectuals to be within steering the wheel of nationalism. If we do not have intellectuals, ideologues, proper ideologues, who understand the blueprints, who understand what needs to be done, when, how, where, we are going to have full-blown anarchy and chaos in our hands. That's why we've been very, very careful. I've been very, very careful on what we do, so that you don't fall across the wayside into fascism. And that's why, if you want to participate in nationalism and in Awoism, you must study your books, you must study your history, you must know global history, you must be able to learn and unlearn, you must be able to open your heart, you must be able to tap into the knowledge of the ancients, you must understand strategy, you must understand tactics, so that we'll be able to survive as a people. I'm sorry to say this, we are going to end up destroying this great opportunity. Because what we are doing through peaceful means, through intellectual means, through the little resources that Mother has given us, is to socially re-engineer our people, so that our people can be able to survive within Nigeria. What TYF is doing, what Awoism is all about, is how will the Yoruba people survive within Nigeria. And if we can perfect that system, if we can perfect that tactic, we will be able to apply it to the Yorubas of Benin Republic, the Yorubas of Togo, the Yorubas of Ghana, the Yorubas of Benin Republic, the Yorubas of Cote d'Ivoire, Yorubas of Brazil. That is why any form of Yoruba nationalism must be destroyed by our enemies. That is why even those people you see, we are speaking for the Yoruba people. Many of them are our Koko tribalists. Many of them are Ekiti supremacists. Many of them are Oyo supremacists. Many of them are Ijebu supremacists. Many of them are Awori first. Many of them are Egba irredentists. Many of them are Ijesha tribalists. Many of them are Ibadan. Anything Ibadan. Local one, they are not interested. Táwọn Yoruba Kogi State, Bagua State. You see, you go to a national conference, the Ijaw people, the way they would fight for the interests of the Ijaw people of Ondo State is the same energy they are going to use for the Ijaw people in Rivers State. But for the sake of, on the side, the Yoruba people, tó bá pẹ́ Ìbàdàn tribalist or Ìbàdàn jingoist ní ẹni yẹn, you are going to see pé kí ló kan tòun Ìbàdàn state, why important to Okun state law, they can go to hell. They are not interested. They will even, that's why when people talk about regionalism, call your leaders. Ẹ̀yẹ pé leaders yín kẹ́ẹ̀pì wọ́n lè rí reason tí wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe regionalism. It is because àwọn tó fẹ́ create Ìbàdàn state, wọ́n fẹ́ mọ jẹ local champion. Ẹnìkan fẹ́ mú bí Ìbàdàn South constituency yẹn, kí family wọn nìkan mọ jẹ senator. These things can sound funny, but it's how many of our people reason. It is so messed up. And many people did not believe us until the issue of Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ versus Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ started. Go and look at the miscreants on social media using their handles to do serious damage. Many of them even forgot that they ever preached Yoruba nationalism before. And they started saying all sort of terrible, terrible things. Because they do not understand what Awoism is all about. They don't. It's madness. They don't. They have no business in Yoruba nationalism. They have no business there. And the funniest thing is, majority of the so-called leaders, our leaders, our baba, they have the same ideology. It is when you start challenging them and saying, nígbà tẹ́ lọ conference, Clayton speak for the Shekiri people. Ṣé báwọn Shekiri wà báyìí, Clayton ṣe nǹkan kan. Wọ́n máa ní actually, kò rí báyìí. Àwọn náà dẹ̀ wà ní powerful places. In tán bá báwọn governors wa sọ, làwọn governors wa ń ṣe. So a ti kó àwọn tribalists, àwọn Yorùbá tribalists, instead of nationalists, la kó sí position. Lójú tí wọn Ifẹ̀ Mọdákẹ́kẹ́ wọ̀ kò tí ì parí, àwọn sì ń ja ogun yẹn lọ. It's so messy. It is so messy. And mo ti bí bàbá kan rí, mo ní if you have this orientation, tẹ́lẹ̀ gbogbo ti yín, tẹ́ bá ti rí Ọ̀yọ́ máa báyìí, tẹ́ máa sọ̀sọ̀kúsọ ní nípẹ̀. There's a particular Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ man I saw in 2007. Ibadan people. That was when Akinola became the governor. Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ about take over. Mo ní ẹjọ́ sá, àgbàlagbà mà nìyí. Mo mọ̀ rí, mo ti rí ní OPC rí. Kí ló tẹ̀ ń ṣe OPC pẹ̀lú mindset yìí? Ìgbà tí mo jù bẹ̀rẹ̀ yẹn sí. Ó wò mí. Kò mọ̀ bó ṣe fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀. Ìjọ́ yìí ni mo rí bàbá yẹn kàn yín ládùúgbò wa. Ó sá lọ ni. Because the reason why this cancerous behavior, torí ẹ̀ la fi lè ṣe groupnomics and powernomics as Yoruba people within Nigeria. Torí ẹ̀ ni ìran tó yẹ kí ó máa shoot for the top ló fi di ìran táwọn ìran tí ò ní agbára tó wá ń jókòó lé wa lórí. Torí ẹ̀ ni minorities ní Kwara State, minorities ní Kogi State, a fi máa sọ fún yín pé àwọn Yorùbá Kogi àti Kwara they are not going anywhere. A sọ fún yín bẹ́ẹ̀. There's a particular clown, Ìgbómìnà boy àbí nǹkan, tí kìíní, tẹ́ bá rí tẹ́ máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá kìíní, tíjọ́ tí mò ń sọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá issues, Yorùbá people of Kwara State kankan, ó dẹ̀ bọ̀ síbẹ̀, ó dẹ̀ sọ̀sọ̀kúsọ. But by the time tí, mo dẹ̀ rí, á dẹ̀ máa support the other people against the Yorùbá people. Ìdí ń tó kàn ojú Ìgbómìnà lọ, Ìgbómìnà agenda lòun run. Ìjọ́ tó máa wá South West, ìjọ́ yẹn náà mọ̀ pé Yorùbá làwọn. Tó máa fi lè kún South West, tó padà sí Kwara yẹn. Ìgbómìnà agenda. Nínú Ìgbómìnà agenda yẹn, ẹ máa gbọ́ Òmùaran versus Erinlé. Òmùaran versus Ṣàrẹ́. Ẹ̀yẹn ní ká fún wọn state ní Ìgbómìnà sìn. Kẹ́ni pé Ìgbómìnà state wà. Ẹlòmíì ò lọ gbé Olúgbòhùn jáde ní pèsè torí pé wọ́n gba capital, wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní para wọn. They don't even think about the larger picture. They don't even think about the larger agenda. They don't even think about the larger destiny. Kí ló fà á tí Ìjẹ̀bú ò fi gba state under Abacha? Odogbolu, Shagam, Remo, what is it just the state capital ni? In fact, they were even threatening to go to war. Today, a woman sọ fún gbogbo yín, amukun ọrùn ẹ wọ́, olókèlè ń wò, olókèlè ń wò ẹ wò ìsàlẹ̀. There is a problem within Yoruba land. There is a deep, deep cancer in Yoruba land. Gbogbo jamboree yẹn, Yoruba parapọ̀. No, there needs to be a social engineering. And to them, social engineering yẹn, ó gbọ́dọ̀ jẹ́ tó understand in terms of. Torí ẹ̀ ni àwọn Igbos we believe wípé àwọn lè bá àwọn political elite wa kán bá wọn up láti pass indigenous bill. Because wọ́n ti size up àwọn Yoruba elder leaders. Wọ́n ti rí pé wàhálà ti wà. This is the weakest leaders you can have in a century. Gbogbo wọn pátá is all about materialism. How many of our political leaders ló ti ka ìwé Awólọ́wọ̀ kankan rí? So the best of best, torí ẹ̀dọ́ mẹ́fà nìkan, ẹ lọ join politics. No, àwọn ò ṣe politics so, and you are complaining. Ẹ ṣe politics, you are complaining, her God, ẹ ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni. Ẹ ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni. And unfortunately, I want to say this and sound this warning. Some people have also seen this all avoiding Yoruba Renaissance as a way to also position themselves. Some also position themselves. If I say anything, you see them going there and start saying all sort of nonsense. There was something happened last week. They said, and I saw it, Honorable Akin Alabi, representing Ibadan, Egbeda on our local government, our constituency, went to go and say, what you said is good, blah, blah, blah. Ibi saw nípa state, more state for the Imo state and everything, for the southeast and everything. While he kept quiet on the indigenous bill. He was not supposed to do that. And people were angry. But, ṣé ẹ̀rí tó kọ sí paragraph 3 ni? Blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, constituency tí Honorable Akin Alabi ń represent, ibẹ̀ ni oko wa wà. One of the two villages. Ọmọ Ìbàdàn tí ò bá lóko ọmọ àlè ni. At least, original gangan máa lóko yóò ti ní ìlú, àtúlágbólé nínú ìlú. So, I have 3 okos. And I say, excuse me, sir. Ṣé òótọ́ lẹ support kìíní? Àwọn ìran bàbá tèmi ta ìjẹ wọn sílẹ̀ níbẹ̀ yẹn ni o. I can trace my lineage back, non-stop, unbroken. Mo mọ bàbá tó bí bàbá tó mú bí bàbá tó bí bàbá tó bí bàbá tèmi. And how we got there. We are from the Oyo Empire. What we did, how we got there. In fact, we fought during the Agbekoya War as frontliners. And I still have inheritance there. So, excuse me, sir. Are you supporting indigenous bill so that we can know what to do? And I said it immediately. Akin Alabi wọ́n rán yàn. No, àwọn ò respond ni. Àwọn èèyàn misconstrue response àwọn ni. And he spoke valiantly. Never will he support such a bill. That bill is going to lead to the destruction of Yoruba land. Kò ṣeé ṣe. Who is going to support such a bill? He spoke. Àwọn kan dẹ̀ wà bí agbọ́. Ẹjọ́. Kílódé tí gbogbo yóò wá sọ̀rọ̀ síta kẹ́ ẹ speak out. Wọ́n dẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀. Ẹ̀wọ̀n gbogbo wa sọ fún ẹ̀pùlẹ̀ Yorùbá. How many of us la sọ̀rọ̀ síta on any issues? Ipe the new policy ń sìn ni pé kí Yorùbá people, àwọn Yorùbá political leaders l'Abuja o, esprit the cup ni wọ́n ń ṣe so that tó máa fẹ́ lọ vote, nobody will know that this is the agenda. We are not going to support this thing. Well, he was in Abuja when he contacted us in TYF, in the chambers. Thought he said, hi, nay. That was how important he reached out. Ọmọ àlè ló ń bẹ̀ tó ń rínú tí ò ń bí. Ọmọ àlè ló ń bẹ̀ tí ò ń gbà. Afẹ́fẹ́ àwọn political elite wa máa reach out sí wa, àbí? We are not going to burn bridges now. After once you have to tell them the latest and everything. We're not going to burn bridges in TYF. And I went there and said, excuse me, what's the reach out CYO? Eshe Pupo. One will support indigenous below. It should be a form of Korea for the other Yoruba political elite. But position Honorable Akin Alabire o. Pomoluabi ṣe ń ṣe nìyẹn. Even though we are not happy, you negotiate for 100, you get 30, you get 40. You are not going to be rigid because politics is lobbying. Politics is diplomatic. Politics is tactical. There's a place for hardcore nationalism. There's a place for hardcore political lobbying. That's why if you are a hardcore nationalist, politics might not be your thing. And I went there and I said that. The next thing, oh, this is like a paid gig. This is like a paid gig. Oh, what's it go? Oh, you are a failure. You are a failure. You failed. Can you come? I was just like, say politics not in Yoruba. Say nationalism not lele. Say fẹ́ gba ilẹ̀ Yorùbá lẹ̀. Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe nǹkan rẹ̀? Wọ́n kàn tì yín. That was why it was very easy for the obedient movement to survive to thrive in two places, the Southwest and Edo land. The Southwest and Edo land. Because people use their emotions to make judgment, political judgments in that place than their common sense. So that is why a lot of our youth, tí wọ́n vote for Peter Obi in 2023, some of them wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ gana. Wọ́n ti ẹ̀rí kékeré kan, òpònú kan, ọjọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ ń bọ̀. And it's going to be taken care of properly. I'm not going to say anything. Because the reason why we blame the elders of Yoruba land of not associating with the youth, of not empowering the youth and taking the youth along. What is up for me? One youth wo. Share youth down ma follow us okay. Don't put the next thing it be I should destroy one only count mudani. And we've seen it now. We've seen it. The star spirit of individualism and brutal intra-Yoruba competition. Làwọn kan gbé wọ nationalism. Gbogbo àwọn tó ti ń rin ìrìn àjò yẹn for more than 10 years, 15 years, wọ́n fẹ́ destroy wọn ni. Wọ́n fẹ́ destroy wọn ni. Kò sí nǹkan tán sọ. Wọ́n fẹ́ bàjẹ́ ni. How can you destroy other people and think you are going to go far in life? You cannot. Ègún àtẹ̀lé gbogbo tẹ́ ẹ bá gbé dání ni. If you work 100, you are going to lose thousands. Oye pe kọ́. Pílí ayé ṣe rí nìyẹn. That's why it's very, very rare for me to come here and be mentioning Baba, this Baba, in this organization, this Yoruba Council of Elders have rare. Oh, rare. I won't mention names. For us to do that, because you must not destroy what you have on ground. Because I know Madagba, and we know the principle, the way Yoruba land operates. Mistake ti Abiola ṣe nìyẹn. Everything in life is spiritual. Èpè tí Awólọ́wọ̀ fi Abiola ṣe lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ tó fi ṣẹlẹ̀. Even though he asked for forgiveness. But Abiola did a lot of damage. He supported Zik. He supported Ekweme, he supported Shagari. He supported Obasanjo. But Bontawa Awolowo built for more than 30 years. Abiola was against it from his teenage years. It was until later on Abiola learned. After 40 years, almost 40, he was successful. He was a billionaire in his personal life. But he did serious damage. Because Awolowo was God sent to the Yoruba people. He destroyed a lot of things. And when he realized He started becoming a Bashorun of Ibadan. He knew that to become the Bashorun of Ibadan was not tribalism. He knew that the idea on the Kakanfo of Yoruba land was not tribalism. He knew that. He knew the importance of those things to associate from your people, to build from the base. In tó ṣe àwọn kan tó ṣe towards that end of his life nìyẹn tí Yorùbá fi lọ jà fún. And many of our people, the best brains of our people perished in that brutal war, asymmetrical warfare against the powers that be within Nigeria. Let's go back. The party topic lónìí. There will be part A, there will be part B. This is part A. Because this thing should be compartmentalized. I've been speaking for the past 35 minutes on why the Yoruba people are behaving the way we are behaving, the way we are in Nigeria. That's why we are behaving the way we are behaving within Nigeria. Because we do not have the political education to survive. We do not have. For the grace of God that has been on our lives. What we are doing here, some people are got it so when let him continue to teach history. History and the question must so. What does he even know? No, they turned it into how can he Google nothing can turn so. If not for the grace of God, Bobonta Shembiloni could have been destroyed. Would have been destroyed. It's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. I know many of you will say, many of you should look at what, and look at the motivation you are getting from Yoruba people. We know that. But the reality is, if we did not have this internal sabotage amongst Yoruba people, why our speed that is just 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers per hour, we would have been traveling at 200 kilometers per hour. That's why when you hear Yoruba unity, think twice. Don't join them. Think twice. And if you walk, no. What did today? That when Yoruba unity is the best way to destroy the best Yoruba brains. That's the unfortunate reality. That we are going to do what needs to be done. So, going back to the real topic, indigenous right. The fact that in a country like Nigeria, where we are in a constant state of war. When I mean state of war, there is a war currently in the Northeast between those who wanted to impose Sharia law on the rest of us and those who believe that Nigeria should not practice democracy, should be practicing theocracy. And they've been fighting Nigeria for the past 15 years, non-stop, with no end in sight. What we are doing is containing them. I want to thank the Nigerian army, especially those people that have spilled their blood to confront these monsters in the Northeast and the Northwest. God will continue to be with your home, and may your death never be in vain. Because it is them that has prevented Nigeria from going the way of Sudan, full-blown, or Congo. But let me now tell you this. That particular occurrence shows you that there is a big there's a problem in Nigeria. So that means you cannot be a Christian and say you want to go and live in those places of Borno or Yobe State, because you are even going to be seen as somebody that is against, the Islamic caliphate they are trying to build in that axis. And these people are also Nigerians. We've seen places in the Northwest where in Bauchi, in the Northeast, where you cannot even though 30% of the population of Bauchi are Christians, you cannot have DJ, you cannot use DJ for your wedding. Because the slight majority have been able to impose, they've been able to capture political power and impose theocratic laws on Nigerians, on other Nigerians. On a very serious note, if not that the people there are docile, those are things that scatter countries, scatter race, scatter species, create chaos. I know the mainstream media is very, very politically correct. And everybody continues to deceive themselves. Or you go to places like Warri, or you go to places like Plateau State, that it is not, if you are a Muslim, you cannot be the governor of Plateau State. If you are Fulani, they will not allow you to become the governor of Taraba State. If you are from Southern Kaduna, they will not allow you to be the governor of Kaduna State. If you are Fulani, you might not be able to become the governor of Adamawa State because of the reality and the complexities of those places, all within Nigeria. And we have some people who maybe they have mental problem, because you have to have a level of mental dysfunction. There needs to be a kind of, was just like what Zeke was doing in the First Republic. There was riot here, riot there. Southern Cameroon exited Nigeria because of Igbo marginalization. Zeke Awolowo was warning, and Zeke was still continue his madness. Zeke didn't care if the whole of Nigeria was burnt down, in as much he was able to achieve two things: subjugate and eradicate the indigenous minorities of the South, and take over Yoruba land and dominate and subjugate the Yoruba people of Yoruba land. Those two things. So he didn't care. He didn't care what the Fulani North was doing in the North. So the same thing is the same mindset. That's why we say ideologies don't die. The Biafran war is over, by at least, but from the mindset of Azikwe is still the same mindset of most Southeast politicians. It will be very hard for many of us to support a presidency from that axis because of this diabolical mindset, this treacherous mindset of trying to weaponize the unitarist system at the fought body since 1966